Okay, that is our presentation. Now it's certainly time to answer your questions. So we will start going through them. Fuad, I'll ask you, Fuad, can you think of a good example of an individual course and what kind of credit you would give it? Just one that you can remember recently?
Oh, the courses?
Yeah, just one course that you've approved recently, and how much time did you give them?
For example, management courses or
Sure.
law courses, business
Yeah,
law.
what was one called? I just want to give somebody an example of what we typically do.
Business law.
Okay, and how much credit did you give for taking that course?
Well, that probably get them like a month or so.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Our next one, I have an EPA license. Oh, just jumped away. I have an EPA license and worked in the field for about 25 years in the refrigeration business. What needs to be done to receive a C38 license? So Fuad can probably answer part of this, but my response would be we would need to see more specifics in your application. Because you're in the refrigeration business, that can mean a lot of things. If you were doing paperwork versus handling repairs, so we would just need more specifics. But what we would be looking for is servicing, repairing, installing, maintaining refrigeration devices. That's the kind of work we'd want to see on your certification experience. Anything you want to add, Fuad?
No, that is correct. That's what we're looking at. Like as we said in the presentation, as long as we see 4 years of hands-on experience or supervising employee experience within last 10 years, that is the qualifying. But the trades have to match the classification that you're applying for.
Hold on, keeps jumping. The next one is, if a person qualifies a license and leaves the company, RMO, RME, they got the license for it, does the license number remain with the company or the individual? So if you're the qualifier, but someone else owns the business, that license number will stay with the business. That's pretty much it. So for example, if you were an officer of Construction Inc., when you left the company, the license number would stay with Construction Inc. Same with the responsible managing employee. Even a sole owner could have a managing employee, but even if that managing employee left, the number would stay with the sole owner. Actually, this is an interesting question that I think we're actually going to have to discuss among ourselves. The next question is, am I able to use owner-builder experience in completing the application for the new B2 residential remodeling license? It's a good question. I don't know why I haven't thought about it before. Fuad, have you gotten this one yet?
Yeah, we will look at that. But what we look at that for a B2 residential is actually if you sort of like as a self-employed, you building your own homes and to sell it. So if you just, for example, just had your home and lived there for 20 years and you got some work on it, that wouldn't count for it. But if you purchase homes, fix them, and then sell them, so you can show 3 or 4 of those projects in the last 10 years, then we can look at it.
Perfect. Next question, how does your fingerprint scan result get attached to the CSLB application? It works a little bit different. The way it works is after CSLB has done their initial review of your application, and I think we probably covered it later in the presentation, we use a term which is that we post your application. That's sort of the initial review is done. When that happens, CSLB staff will mail you a live scan packet. And if you're in the state, you would just use that packet, and you would go down to a live scan. I think a lot of FedExes, like your Kinkos out there, have those facilities at this point. you would give them the paperwork that's in that packet, and then they would run your prints right there. And then it's all electronic at that point. If you have questions about hard cards, I'll see if there's questions later. But hard cards are a little bit different. But that's sort of how it works. It's all electronic, the notifications we get. Fuad, is there anything you'd add?
No, just know that if you send in the hard cards, you know, and you have to send the $49 fee for the DOJ to process that, and it takes, like we said, about a couple of months to get those results sometimes.
Got it. And this is a related question just about how do we ensure that the results get matched? Just so you're aware, part of that live scan packet will actually have your application identifier, which is called an application fee number, and that's how it will get matched up. And thankfully, it's all automatic at this point. The system, once we get notification from the California Department of Justice and the FBI, it just automatically updates your application right then and there. After you are given a date for your exam, can you take a walk-in exam prior to your set date? Yes, you could do that. I would just caution you. It's kind of like flying standby. So you just need to make sure that there's a seat available. But as long as you're close to a particular test center, you can certainly try it. Once you're in the system, we can pull your information and seat you as long as we have a seat available. Next question is, how do you get credit for a contractor that is signed off for you? I don't think I quite understand that question. I'm sorry. Fuad, do you know what they're asking? I may just ask the Kevin to rephrase.
Yeah, no, but if that means that, you know, like if a contractor has signed your certification of work experience and they have, you know, the good trade duties, we just look at the dates that they put on the certification of work experience and we give credit based on that.
All right, another interesting question. Will I qualify for owner builder experience credit if my father is the owner of the properties that I've worked and supervised on? It actually wouldn't work in that circumstance. But hopefully your father paid you and now you've got a customer that can supervise your work experience. Fuad, anything you'd add there?
No, that's it, because at that point you become sort of like a self-employed working for another owner builder. So that's how we look at it at that point.
Next one, I'm about to complete the 2-year electrical program at LATTC. I am also ready to, oh, it just disappeared. I am also ready to finish a 4-year apprenticeship with the, it keeps jumping, hold on, sorry. I'm also ready to finish a 4-year apprenticeship with the engineers unit. Can I qualify for the C10 exam? I'd have to look up LATTC. I don't remember it, but you look like you're looking good, Alejandro. What I would do is you can, if you want to wait around till we're totally wrapped up, I can get into more specifics, but you're looking pretty good for that type. Fuad, do you know LATTC?
You know, again, I don't know what that LATTC program is, but this is as part of, you know, if you're working there still as a trainee and you're not a journeyman, that is not the experience. So you can get some for your, you know, for your education, but we still need some hands-on experience as a journey person. But I need more information on that LATTC program.
Yeah.
But based on what I see, you still need some experience, hands-on journeyman experience outside of this.
So Alejandro, I would contact us after this and we can get into more specifics, and I'll make sure I have some contact information below. Can you repeat the answer to the education question? My audio wasn't working. So just in a nutshell, because I just asked Fuad to provide one example of education. Again, it's different amounts of credit based on what degree, if you have a degree you're trying to qualify for. And then it's also, if it's specific classes, it's very case by case. You can get up to 36 months, but we do caution you not to bank on that. So if you're trying to use education, make sure you're not squeaking up against that 4-year requirement. Anything to add, Fud?
No, just remember, if you don't have a degree, those classes, they get you minimal, So don't count on, for example, if you don't have a degree to get like 2 years or 18 months. You get usually about 6 months of experience.
Yeah.
Right.
Next question, will my apprenticeship at the engineers union better qualify me for a C20 HVAC license? So Alejandro, every apprenticeship's a little bit different. It's one of those where we have to get into the specifics. There are some apprenticeships where quite a lot of it you would be a journeyman person, and there's other apprenticeships where none of it would qualify. So it really is case specific. We'd have to get more specifics on it. Next question is by Douglas. I want to start a pressure washer business. I believe that falls under the C61 sand and water blasting. Do I need experience to apply? Yes, you do need experience to apply. Any of our classifications would be 4 years, journey person or higher. I'm grabbing my classification booklet. Do you remember what would probably be best for this one, Fud?
The D38?
Yeah, I'm wondering.
Is C61 D38?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I just need to check. Sorry. See, Fud's better at this. Next question. If I am not able to use owner builder experience in completing the application for the new B2, should I apply for the traditional B? So again, I think Fod pretty much addressed that one, Walter. You can use the owner builder for the B2. And I think it's based on your situation. If you've got a lot of remodeling experience and that's really what you've been doing, then the B2 is the more sensible thing. If you're actually framing whole new additions to the house, a B2 is not going to help you. It's better for you to consider the B license, but it's going to be very specific to your situation. Anything you'd add, Fod?
No, but my recommendation is you can always, apply for a B, and then we will let you know that if that doesn't cover it, and then we may suggest you B2. Just apply, then we will work through that. But for a B, you have to have a structural experience.
Manuel wrote, is the license work in Texas like in Arizona? Manuel, I'm going to try to guess what you're asking. So the number one thing is, if you've been a contractor somewhere else in the country, we definitely want to hear about it. We're definitely going to consider it in your experience, regardless of where that was, or in another country, or somewhere else in the world. We do have reciprocity with certain states. Arizona is one where we have reciprocity, where you could waive. It's possible you could waive your trade exam, but it is specific to your situation. We do not have that type of waiver with the state of Texas. Next question. In terms of education credits, I have an associate's degree along with a Bachelor of Arts degree, but they were not construction related. Will these degrees add credit for my experience as an applicant? The answer, Kevin, is yes, it's likely to get credit, but until we see it, I can't tell you what that's going to be. Fod, would you add anything?
Yeah, one thing to know that it's not, we don't combine them. We give you the one that gets you the most. In this case, is the Bachelor of Arts degree, which if the degree shows on the transcripts, we can actually give you about 18 months of credit for that.
Next question is, any recommendations on good construction schooling education? Interested in being a general builder and contractor, and I live in the Bay Area. Eric, I will say I can't give you a recommendation on a school. I can give you some words of caution, and I would definitely make sure you check references. So I would, when you're evaluating, I would certainly contact more than one or two, and I can't give you a list of which those are, but I would at least contact two, if not more. And I would ask to talk to licensed contractors who were previous students, get some contact information so that you can actually get their opinion of how it went. My father is a 40-year retired general B contractor. He would tell you he felt like it cost a lot of money and he didn't need it. But I think everyone's experience is a little bit different. There are many people who are very happy to have that additional assistance, and there are others out there who felt it wasn't worth the money. But I would say that experience also varies with the company that you go with. So I think that's the real important thing. Remember that you're their customer, and you want to have a very positive experience. So I would definitely interview a few, not just go with the first one you find. Next question from JT. From a company formation, legal, and tax standpoint, what is the reason we see a very small percent of contractors being LLC versus being incorporated? That's actually a really good question. It's because you have to have additional insurance requirements to be an LLC. And so it's a little bit more of a cost because you're going to have additional insurance coverage. Anything you'd add, Bob?
No, that's the cost of insurance, the work on the insurance, correct.
Alejandro, I'm not sure if we answered your previous questions, but I'm just going to keep scrolling through, and hopefully I'll get to it. If I didn't answer it, just ask it again. That's the same question. Besides the study guides linked in the presentation, are there any good exam preparatory courses you recommend? I pretty much touched on that already. One thing I do recommend though is taking a look at the study guide resources page. Those are all free websites. It's the second page of any study guide, and I do recommend you look at that before you start looking at preparatory courses. Also, a good rule of thumb that I try to give people for the law and business exam is the actual book that's in this presentation that's made by LexisNexis. The first 120 pages or so, that's a great test prep. If you really digest and understand those first 120 pages, which is us trying to explain the law in just common language instead of legalese, I think that'll get you a really good jump start on making sure you're ready for the law and business exam. Next question is, what is the CSLB category for computer hardware and software like point of sale equipment? I don't know what that's asking. Lynn, if you're asking whether or not you need to be licensed to work on IT systems, you actually don't, because that's not a structure. But I'm not sure if that's your question.
Just if they are going to actually, for example, install the network wiring inside the house and whatnot, right, those are the ones that falls under our jurisdiction. That would be C7 low voltage. But for computer hardware, software, point of sale, that is not under our jurisdiction.
This individual received a citation about 2 months ago for illegally advertising and contracting without a license. You absolutely can apply. Please disclose that in your application, but those type of citations, we actually expect you to contact us rather quickly so that we can get you in the pipeline. So again, I have to review all the criminal background there, but if you got that citation, that's not going to disqualify you, because then you just be in a vicious circle. So yes, definitely get your application in so we can start looking at it. Next question, I'm applying for a D28 license. I have 23 years experience. Can I provide more than one foreperson? Is it best to have just one? Uh, so Manuel, absolutely, you can provide as many forepersons as you've worked for. If you've got one that basically, for example, has worked with you, day in and day out for 5 years, then there wouldn't be a need for another. But it doesn't hurt to have more experience. It just means we're going to process it and keep moving on. Would you add anything, Fawn?
No, that's it. Got it.
The C32 license covers seal coat stripping and asphalt and concrete. I'm not sure that's a question. I don't have my book right in front of me. Any sort of classification question though, CSLB does have a classification deputy. And you can actually email them. It's classifications@cslb.ca.gov. And if you've got specific questions about what sort of classification you need for a certain job, that's what they're there for. If the owner builder experience on homes that I've sold is over 10 years ago, will I be eligible? So Fuad, is an owner builder eligible if their projects are more than 10 years old?
No, the statement is actually correct. No, we would not accept those. So you have to use the ones the current within the 10 years. So only use those projects that you done within last 10 years. And if that falls under B, then apply for a B.
Got it. The next question, how would I explain my experience if I have it from my current employer of over 10 years and my own business of 3 years? It's going to be a little bit specific to your situation. If you're working full-time for your employer doing construction work for the last 10 years, we're not going to give you more than 40 hours a week credit, even if you go home that night and you're working on your own business, from 6 to 9 at night, and then you go home. But if you're not working full-time for your employer, we could certainly talk about that. So that may be an instance where you'd have 2 different work certifications, one from your employer saying how many hours a week you worked. And then you would have a second from it because it's your own business. It would depend on who you've been working with, could be customers, etc., that would be certifying for your own business. Anything that you would add, Fawn?
No, the best is that submit one certification of work experience for each experience separately, so that way we'll make sure you have the 4 years covered.
Will 4 years experience as a journeyman engineer, not an electrician, be sufficient to qualify, or is this a case-by-case basis? So Alejandro, I'm wondering why you just don't want an A license. Instead, why you want a C10, but we'd have to actually look at what you were doing. And that's going to be incredibly specific to your particular situation. So we can't really pre-qualify that. Now, what I will say is we get applications where someone starts the process seeking to be, let's say, an A, and after we have a back and forth and get some more clarification, we actually say, this doesn't look like an A, it actually looks more like a C10, and we can change it in that process. But yeah, your situation, we're going to really have to evaluate specifically what's going on, and we'll have to do some research on our end when we receive your application. Fuad, anything you'd add?
Yeah, what I suggest, if submit your application, and if you need more information prior to that regarding what classification actually best fits the trade you're performing, like Justin gave you the email, classifications, that's plural, at cslb.ca.gov. That's a good resource to get some of that information.
Next is Monica has experience with seal coat and stripping and plans to subcontract other work. Do I have to have experience in asphalt and concrete to get this license? So there are classifications that cover multiple types of work. So for example, landscape contractors, it can cover a lot of work, and a landscaper may specialize in a particular thing. So for example, you may be someone who's just a retaining wall expert, and that's all you do. that doesn't mean we're going to deny your license because you don't have experience doing anything other than that. That it's just we would want to look for 4 years of that consistent work that falls under whatever the particular classification is. Anything you'd add, Fod?
No, you submit the application for C32. Go for it.
Is the exam pass, no pass, and is there a certain score you need to get in order to pass? Yes. If you pass, you'll never know what your score was. And on the study guide, it tells you what the pass is because it's a little bit different for every exam. If you fail, you'll get a printout of what your percentage was, what percentage was required to pass the exam. And the most important thing in your printouts would be a breakdown of the categories. So if we asked you 30, well, it would actually tell you, we asked you 30 questions on planning and estimating. You got 12 right and 18 wrong. That paper is very valuable because it'll help you know where you need to study for next time. So for example, you'll see some categories where maybe you only got 1 or 2 wrong, and other categories where you got like more than half wrong. That's the point of that piece of paper, and it's very valuable. And I really do recommend to people, you can reschedule your exam as close to 3 weeks away from failing. But if there's a lot to study, I highly recommend you take your time, kind of identify where those gaps were, study, and then get scheduled. You do have 18 months to pass it, but my advice is don't rush it. Don't just keep coming back and back to see if you can pull it off. Anything you'd add, Fod?
No, sir. That's good.
I need help to get me this experience. I have used my pressure washer several times before painting a house. Self-employed work. Some tips around that. So Douglas, it's going to be specific to your situation. I think if you're looking for experience, just like in any profession, it would be helpful to go find a licensee and you can actually work for them. If you want to go another route, you could partner with someone and they can be your qualifier for the next 4 years. Someone who's already licensed, you could go partner with them. Those are sort of the 2 best examples I have based on what I'm gathering from your situation. Fod, anything you'd add?
No, that is correct. You know, if you don't think that you have the experience, you can always get a qualifier, and then once you work on that license, you will gain that experience you need. At some point, you can replace that qualifier and take over the license.
Can multiple experiences be combined for the certification of work experience for a C27, such as education, working for a licensed contractor, and self-employed? Absolutely. But the critical thing I'm pretty sure I'm going to channel Fod is make sure each of those is a separate work certification. Anything you'd add, Fod?
No, that's it. Separate work cert for self-employed and licensed contractor. You got it.
Next, I've been self-employed in the audiovisual field since 2007. I want to bid on audiovisual maintenance contract for 2022. It requires a C7 license. I also have past Navy schooling as an interior communications electrician. This is not for building, but maintenance and replacement if necessary. What do I need to take the C7 exam? So Bill, you basically you're going to apply, you're going to seek a C7, and you just want to make sure your work certifications show kind of what you've been doing, and we'll take it from there. And then once we've done the initial review of your application, that's when you actually take the C7 exam. Anything you'd add, Fod?
No, just make sure your experience was that on the structures, then we will look at it. If not, yeah, there would be a problem if it's not on the structures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next question. Do I need to be licensed to work on fuel dispensers? My guess is you're going to need to ask our classification deputy. His name is Hal Clay, and he's got 30 years of files that go into specifics. I don't know that one offhand. Fuad, do you happen to know?
Is for that kind of detail, it's best to communicate with the classification deputy, because that way you will have the response in the email, and formally you can have it in your hand too for future reference.
How do I get credit for my studies and experience acquired in another country? Because I'm an architect and I have tons of construction, building, and management experience, I'd like to become a B. So as we previously stated, your education certainly counts. If your transcript is in another language, please take a look at the presentation, because you're going to need someone to provide a translation of your transcript for us. And then just make sure your certifiers are certifying your experience. But whether you gain that experience in Spain or here, we just care that you have the experience. What would you have, Fuad?
Yeah, as far as the transcripts from out of country, make sure they are translated and evaluated. There are accredited institutes that evaluate that, and they tell you what is that equivalent to the degrees we have here. And also, when it comes to the certification of work experience for out of country, we like to see someone actually from the out of country certified you. So go back, send it to them, have them completed, and send it back to you.
Bill was clarifying his last question. It's a maintenance contract for a building to maintain and operate and replace parts if necessary. He worked for an installation technician for a government contractor from 2000 to 2007, but that is too old, Bill, for us to evaluate. We actually need to see 4 years of experience in the last 10. Based on what you're saying and the fact that the contract is requiring you to get a license, I imagine a lot of your maintenance is going to be pulling out old Cat 6 and running new Cat 6, things of that nature. So you are going to need that experience. There's no way around that. Fuad, is there anything you'd add?
Yeah, I think he's good for the, having another qualifier to qualify Bill's license, and then he can, after working 4 years under that, he can take over. That would be a good candidate for that option.
The next question is from Walter. Are you interested to know any other background information related to my background that may be insightful to you, but doesn't really have a place on the application? If so, should I provide a concise cover letter or just try to fit it into number 9, explain your past experience section? Walter, I think it depends. You can certainly provide us a cover letter. We'll certainly read it. If you have concerns about your work experience, that's probably, I'd probably want to talk more about it with you. But I'm not sure what the background would be related to unless it's your experience. Hopefully that helps. Is there anything you'd add, Fuad?
All I can say is you don't really need to submit anything yet. Wait, once we get the results back, if we needed any kind of information, we reach out to you. That would be my suggestion.
Got it. Next, additional charges or fees when providing a bond as opposed to a cashier's check. There are no differences in the charges, but one thing I do want to really underline is I would really consider getting a bond as opposed to a cashier's check, because we're happy to accept either, but a lot of people who provide cashier's check, they get really upset when they're retiring and they want their cashier's check released, and we won't release it for 3 years after you retired, because we have to make sure the statute of limitations is passed on anyone who may want to file a complaint against you. And so after your license stops being active, you've got to wait 3 years before I'm going to release that cashier's check. Whereas your surety, you would just cancel your coverage for the future year. Anything you'd add, Fuad?
No, thank you.
Besides the study guides linked in the presentation, are there any good exam? I think we've covered that question about exam prep. What form of payment is accepted for my application? Typically, we see a check. Yeah, we check. Anything you'd add, Fog?
Yeah, it's actually it says on the application too. You can see it says attach a money order or a personal, business, certified, or cashier's check made payable to the Register of Contractors.
It looks like we got to the end of the questions. Hopefully this was helpful for you. I'll wait just a minute to see if there's any additional questions. Fuad, is there any last notes you'd like to add for the group?
I really want to emphasize that before you submit your application, go through all the questions. Everything, make sure is filled out, and there is signatures is there. The certification of work experience is signed and dated. We get many of applications that it looks good, everything is ready to post and move forward, but like there is a signature is missing or date is missing, and those unfortunately we have to return it to you. So do your diligence, go over it again before you submit it.
Hold on, it looks like we got one more question. Oh no, I think that's it. So I certainly appreciate everyone's time today. If you have other questions about your application, we encourage you to drop us an email to our licensing division. The email address is licensing@cslb.ca.gov. At some point, if you need to reschedule your exam, you can get that process started by dropping an email to exams@cslb.ca.gov. We've also put together a list of available resources for women considering a career in construction. If you haven't already, be sure to download this presentation to get them. And you can download the presentation on a green banner at the top of our homepage, which is www.cslb.ca.gov. If you're watching the archive video of this workshop on your YouTube page, you'll definitely find a link to the presentation down below.
We welcome your comments or topics for future webcasts. Just drop us an email to social@cslb.ca.gov. A special thanks to our licensing division and public affairs office for this help on this workshop. The Get Licensed to Build workshop is a copyrighted production of the California Contractors State Licensing Board. Thank you everyone for watching.